Alright, so today we're going to talk about something a little different. We're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about some stuff that I didn't cover in the original videos on my other channel that's deceased. Basically, what we're going to talk about is we're going to start at the very bottom level. We're going to start at level 0, not even level 1, and we're going to talk about stuff like selecting the right system, selecting the right players, things like that. Selecting the right class. We might be able to cover that in this video, but we're going to cover those first two things I mentioned for sure in this video. And it's going to be, it's going to be surprisingly obvious to you, actually. So as far as like the game choices go, if it was made by TSR, it's probably good. If it was made by Wizards of the Coast, it's probably shit. And if you have to choose between something made by TSR with love and care or something shitted out of the ass of Wizards of the Coast, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm gonna choose TSR. If you're going for, if you're trying to use one of the systematic worlds that was actually part of a book, you definitely want to use TSR because they're better. They're just better, period. And I mean, that would mean editions like 1, I think 1 was from TSR, but 1 may have actually been published, self-published or something like that. But 2 and I think 3, editions 2 and 3, I think were made by TSR. I know 2 was. And so those are the books you want. It's fun. It's functional. It doesn't have a lot of the really political and social stuff involved in it. I mean, it has political and social stuff involved in it, but that stuff is in the fictional world. This is not. It's not a thinly veiled surrogate for people who are mad about stuff that happened in the real world. And I mean, that's what Wizards of the Coast is at this point. It's like just a thinly veiled surrogate for their real world rage just being given a conduit. And we're not going to get into all that because that's a whole other video or several other videos. This is about the simple truth of what you do want to choose and what you don't want to choose. So for systems, TSR books, you definitely want to use books that that Gary Gygax was personally involved in. You definitely want to choose. Shit it out of the ass of Wizards of the Coast, you definitely do not want to choose. And it might be hard to find some of the TSR stuff, but I'm telling you, the TSR stuff is just way better, period. And it's also pretty darn cool, because some of the TSR books have a lot of art in them that was drawn by very professional hired artists who were, like, I wouldn't say they were world class, but they were highly skilled artists who made it look real good and made it look mysterious and exotic and fantastical, like it should look. And so, on the other side of it, of things like Vampire the Masquerade and Wraith the Oblivion and Mummy the Awakening and those other games, some of those games are just like, I can't get involved in it. I just can't. It's just too hostile towards me for me to even get invited to even play it. Which, I mean, I don't really care that much. But I've been playing these games, Dungeons and Dragons and other games like it, since about 1980, probably 8 or 9. And I've been running this stuff for people since like 1991 or 2. So for everybody that's viewing the screen, I've been running this stuff and talking about it since before a lot of people who are going to see this video's parents were born. But the thing about it to consider and understand, let me get some light so you can actually see a little bit more, is that selecting the right system, and by the right system I mean TSR, and Gygax's personal stuff that he was personally involved in, is key so that you quickly learn how to run it and quickly learn how to play it. And if you're having to worry about a bunch of real world social and political stuff as well as all of the complicated rules, that's going to make it a lot harder to learn it. I mean, because it just is. That's how nature works. That's how intelligence works. That's how complexity works. The more you add to it, the more complex it is. And so, for players, set them ring in colorful hair, click no. Bald, miserable person who you can't tell what their gender is, click no. 49,553,000 posts on Reddit per second, click no. I mean, just like weird colored hair that looks like a poisonous animal colors, click no. Somebody who's got a lot of political stuff and pronouns in their everything, click no. Because those people, they're not worth playing with. In my experience, they're just not worth playing with. They're not really very smart. They're not really very inventive. They're not fun. They're not fun to play the game with, period. And I've played with people like myself, and I played with people like them. And the ones that are like myself, in my experience, are pretty darn cool, actually. Most of them. I mean, and I've played with people who actually personally played with Gary Gygax in person. So, nobody is fixing to tell me that I'm not cool. Really, it's about selecting the right people and then selecting the right storyline. Because, first of all, you have experience levels and powers and those various things you have to keep up with for this. And if you select the wrong storyline, you may select one where you're not high enough level to ever actually complete the quest. And if you select the wrong players, you might end up in a scenario where you have to change the story a bazillion times because they keep doing this crap. Which, if you do that, you're just... If I'm running it and you do that, you're just going to take yourself out of the game, period. Because I'm not going to change any part of it for anyone. Because I write immensely complicated stories where every single event is deeply related, and every single town has 5 or 10 side quests, and every single cave has 2 or 3 secret rooms and 5 or 6 other things about it. And, and it's just like... I write stuff that's like, let's take Skyrim and make it 5,000 times more complicated and give it 2 million more side quests. So, if you do that in my table, you're just going to take yourself out of the game, period. Because I'm not going to change any of it for anyone, period. Due to the fact that it's extremely complicated, and due to the fact that a lot of stuff about it is deeply related to a lot of other stuff about it, so that me changing something for you like that might result in half the game having to be changed, or might result in 20 side quests having to be completely dropped, which I'm just not going to do that. Period. So choosing the right people and choosing the right system, choosing people you know and you trust, and choosing systems that are not garbage, that's how you do it right.